Hi, I am Jairo Bolledo, and this is Rappler Talk. For this episode, we will have a conversation with Representative Laila De Lima to talk about her political comeback, her planned legislations, and her incoming role as one of the prosecutors in the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Welcome back to Rappler, ma'am.
Hello, Jairo. It's a pleasure to be back here, as always. Yes.
Ma'am, last June 30, you finally assumed your new role as Congresswoman, as representative of Mamamayang Liberal in the lower chamber of the Congress. So, kamusta ma'am, yung mga first things that you've done as officially ML representative?
Okay, of course, I'm organizing my office. So I'm now filling up the very limited plantilla items of my office, and I've been coordinating, of course, with my party mates at the Liberal Party and also to Mamamayang Liberal at ML. Kasi nga, since I'm new, I'm actually a newbie sa House of Representatives. I still have to learn how to navigate the political situation there. Kasi compared to the Senate, na ilan-ilan lang naman doon. You know, you have here more than 200 members of the House, and you would be dealing with several blocks. Political blocks. So I need the guidance ng mga dati na, ng mga naging miyembro ng House, like si former Congressman Erin Tanyada, who happens to be the acting president of the Liberal Party, and then si former Congressman Teddy Bronner Bagilat, who's the president of the Mamamayang Liberal, and also other allies like former Congressman Kit Belmonte. So I've been consulting them, also Congressman Raul Dasa, one of the old guards of the LP. So even sa mga committee membership ko, I'm consulting them also. But of course, when it comes to committee membership, I have to choose those that are suited to my core competencies. And I'm talking about human rights, justice, and even suffrage and electoral reforms, because I used to be an election law practitioner, also accountability. So yun ang mga core competencies. But since I am a representative of a party list, I have to be conscious also about dun sa mga sectoral needs. That's why dun sa ibang members, at least I learned only this morning, that actually there's no limit to the maximum number of membership.
Of the committee?
Of committee membership. Although, depende na yan sa, let's say, may mga ilang committees dyan na sobra-sobra na yung magiging members, so they will talk to you na pwede ba, wag na lang muna dito sa committee na to. But in my choice of committee membership, sinasama ko rin yung mga sa ano namin, sa mga sectoral. For example, since we have urban poor as one of the sectors, I have to be a member of the Committee on Housing. Kasi yun ang problema nila lagi sa urban poor. And then the Persons with Disabilities, PWD Committee. And
that's very close to your heart.
Yes, because I have a special child. And then indigenous peoples and women. Kasi ito yung mga sector na to na talagang very active sila. Because as you know, ML is a multi-sectoral party list. We represent actually a total of 10 sectors. Pero yung mga binanggit ko, yun yung talagang mga active, and even fisher folks and farmers. So I'm choosing the committees kasi kung hindi ka kasi member, you cannot participate. And then you cannot vote. So if you will be pursuing a legislative measure affecting the particular sector, you have to actively participate.
And be a member of that committee.
And be a member of that committee. So, ganun ang choice ko ngayon ng mga committee membership. So, I'm learning the ropes of how to be a member really of House of Representatives. Kahit ako dating sa Senate, pero alam nyo naman yun na yung sa aking, hindi ko naman talaga na fulfill ng completely, 100%.
You're only there, former senator, for how many months only?
8 months.
Wala kang 1 year.
8 months. Nung finailan na nga ako ng mga charges na yun at kinulong na nila ako. Although I remained to be a member of the Senate. Only that it was limited yung aking pag-fulfill dahil hanggang dun lang ako sa pagpa-file ng mga resolutions, ng mga bills, but never to participate in any deliberations, whether plenary or committee.
Siguro ngayon, Congresswoman, ang isa sa mga score or gustong malaman ng mga tao, what's the real score with the Liberal Party, with the ML? Kasi the Liberal Party faction is in the middle of the warring factions of the Duterte and the Marcoses. So, to set the record straight, si former Senator Laila De Lima and now ML Representative De Lima, saan po ba sasali ang ML sa block natin sa lower house?
Okay, I will be part of the minority block. Now, okay, so ML is the sectoral arm of the LP. All right, so there are LP members that have chosen or have decided to join the majority, and then some also with the minority, kasama ko. Kasi, well, initially, we wanted sana this going to be a collective decision. We blocked talaga kami, either majority or minority. But hindi nangyari yon. So it became a personal decision. So there are a number na kasama sa majority and meron din sa minority. But LP, as a political party, remains to be an opposition. Yun lang again sinasabi namin. Kasi nga, there was a time, or even up to now, I think, kasi nga ang nakikita natin na talagang dominant forces are Marcos and Duterte camps. Now, kaya ang Duterte camp is claiming to be an opposition.
The minority.
The minority. So we always try to refute that, to dispute that by saying, how can you be considered an opposition? Yes, you may be a minority, but how can you be considered an opposition when wala ka namang alternative program, lalo na in terms of good governance? Kasi yung away nyo, talaga namang ano lang yan, political lang yan eh. It has nothing to do with governance.
It's personal family affairs.
It's personal family affairs. So power play lang sa inyo. Power grabbing and power play. Kami hindi. Sa LP, we are an opposition, but we prefer to be issues-based and a reasonable opposition, hindi yung obstructionist. And I think yun din ang ina-anticipate ko sa minority bloc na ganun din. Minority kami, so in other words, we should be fiscalizer. So we don't only fiscalize, as part of fiscalizing, we scrutinize the policies of this administration at lalo na sa budget. And then sa mga oversight functions, we want to be active sa mga oversight. So kasi fiscalizer nga. But it doesn't mean magiging obstructionist.
Correct.
Yung minority bloc. Maayos naman ang policy, maayos naman yung certain legislative measures na ipopropose ng majority, we can always join them sa mga ganon. Pero we will act definitely as fiscalizers. Lalo na this is the second half already of the administration. Yung first half, since bago pa,
yung mga honeymoon stage.
Honeymoon stage. So you can more or less try to give them more leeway na hayaan sila na maka-adjust and all that. This one is the last segment of the administration. So dapat by now, magpakita na sila ng kanilang performance. So kung kulang, kailangan, namin yan? Kailangan we say something about those things, we urge them, we push them, and sisingilin na sila nung kanila. And that's why we're excited also to hear about the SONA of the President.
Which will be this month.
So it will be this month. So makikita doon yung mga priorities na naman ng administration sa second half. So tingnan namin kung ano yun. And then yung sisingilin syempre, yung mga pinangako niya the last SONA. So that's the role of the minority, but the minority bloc.
With that being said, ma'am, halimbawa itong Duterte family, because there will be at least, if I'm not mistaken, 3 members of the Duterte family who will be part of the lower house, First District Representative Pulong, the son of Representative Pulong for 2nd District, and then PPP party list Representative Harold Duterte. So would you be okay with them joining the minority? Professional relationship, paano ang magiging reconciliation natin?
Honestly, I won't be comfortable having them in the minority bloc. Now, if they choose to be part of the minority bloc, titingnan ko na muna how will they act as a minority. And then, lalo na kung, they would be vying, for example, minority leadership, that's another story. Kasi kung sila ang magiging minority leader, sila mag-head, I'll be out of it. I'll be out. Definitely, I'll be out. So I won't be majority, and at the same time, I won't be minority, so I have no choice but to become an independent minority.
Independent bloc member.
Independent bloc. That's another alternative. But right now, nung nakita ko naman, kasi nagkaroon na rin kami ng 2 meetings sa minority bloc, nakita ko naman na yung maraming members doon na, which I feel ay makakatrabaho ko. Nandun yung mga progressive blocs like the Akbayan and the Makabayan bloc. And then may ilan-ilan din na mga young blood sa district representatives. So right now I can see na it's wala akong nakikitang problema dyan sa minority bloc ngayon. But it all depends really on what happens, lalo na kapag ginagawa na namin full blast na halimbawa yung mga committee hearings, and then there are issues to be tackled and how we're going to approach it as a bloc. So, but right now I'm comfortable with it. Yung composition ngayon ng minority bloc, although hindi pa yon kumpleto.
Ma'am, let's go back to the job of, a representative legislation. So, nabanggit niyo po last time that anti-red tagging would be one of your priority measures or bills that you seek to pass or file in this Congress. So, ano pa po ba yung mga specific legislations?
As I said earlier, since ML ako, since I'm party list, meron din ako ang mga sector-based legislation and at the same time legislation on my core competencies. When I say core competencies, yung mga previous position ko, Secretary of Justice, CHR Chairperson, and election law practitioner. That's why I want also to be a member of the Justice Committee, the Human Rights Committee, and the electoral reforms and suffrage. And I will refile some of the bills that I filed noon as a senator. Pero hindi naman ginalaw. Remain untouched. Like the anti-EJK bill, the Human Rights Defenders bill. Napasa yun actually, napapasa yun ni former Congressman, the late LP President, Congressman Edsel Lagman, at the House level.
Yes.
But it was not touched at the Senate level. Nakakulong na ako noon. But I filed a bill on that, including also the CHR charter. Until now.
The much-needed update.
The much-needed. Until now, wala pa silang sariling batas, sariling charter. Yung strengthening the Commission on Human Rights. Yung kanilang mandate ngayon, flow directly from the Constitution, 1987 pa. So matagal na rin yan na nakasalang dyan, pero hindi, for some reason, hindi pumapasa. So I will refile that. Also yung aking mga comprehensive prison reform bills. So yun yung sa advocacies ko, core advocacies. And then sa sectoral based, I've been consulting some of the sectors that ML represent, like the urban poor. Marami silang mga concerns. Kaya ang una kong gagawin, one of the things na kailangan kong i-file would be the resolution calling for a comprehensive review of all the laws affecting urban poor. Ganon din sa PWDs. Kasi may mga batas na. Nagkakaproblema lang sa implementation. I don't want to be just filing bills na hindi na naman pala kailangan. Kasi meron ng batas na it's either pwede namang mag-introduce na lang ng amendments o singilin yung mga implementing agencies. What are they doing? Kasi even I was surprised to learn kasi nagkaroon din kami ng consultation recently via Zoom with various PWD groups. And may mga binanggit na silang mga batas. Yung iba alam ko na yung mga batas na yun. Meron din iba na hindi ko alam may mga ganong mga batas. But they said na all of these bills have not yet been fully implemented. Fully and effectively implemented. So kailangan muna ng review. Napatatawagin yung mga implementing agencies and find out saan nagkakaroon ng problema, saan ang mga bottleneck, bakit hindi na i-implement ng maayos yung mga batas na yan. Pero sa Fisher Folks, isa sa mga campaign pledges ko sa kanila is to come up with a Magna Carta for Fisher Folks. Kasi di ba nagkaroon ng Supreme Court decision
on
yung,
the 15 kilometer
municipal waters.
That allows big fisheries.
Which would allow, kung magsusustain yung decision na yan, I think there's a pending motion for reconsideration. It will open the municipal waters, the use of the 15-kilometer municipal waters to commercial fishers.
The big fishers.
To the detriment of the small ones. Anong laban nila? Sa vessel pa lang, talo na sila. Sa mga equipment, talo na sila. So we will put there a provision which categorically say na yung 15-kilometer municipal water exclusive. Tsaka yung mga housing settlement din ng mga mangingisda. Di ba yung kabuhayan nila sa dagat? Saan sila nakatira? Yung mga shanty-shanty sa tabi, mga dalampasigan. Na kapag may bagyo talagang wala silang maayos na housing settlement. So yun ang namin for the fisher folk. And then sa farmers, ang pwedeng unang gawin is ipa-review yung Rice Tariffication Act. Kasi hindi naman na-achieve yung pinaka-objective niya.
Hindi naman nagmura ang bigas.
Hindi naman naging mura. Kaya nga binuksan nila sa importation, mga imported, para daw bumaba. Hindi naman nangyari. And then nakipagkompetensya na naman yung mga small farmers natin dun sa mga imported. So, kailangan talaga tingnan yung Rice Tariffication Act. Kailangan pa bang i-maintain yan? O kailangan ng i-repeal? And also the National Land Use Bill. I filed a National Land Use Bill before. Hindi nakakapasa. Kasi may mga kino-convert na mga fertile agricultural lands into subdivisions, into malls, industrial. Nakaka-apekto rin yan sa environment. Yung ganon. So pagdating sa mga priority bills for sectoral, hindi ko yan basta-basta ma-file na hindi ko muna yan kini-clear sa sectors concerned. But we've been talking to them already. So I told them na kapag ready ng mga i-file, we will consult them. I-clear namin sa kanila. Pero yung mga sinabi ko dun sa mga core competencies ko na mga dati ko ng final, I'm just updating it. Ipa-file ko na yun starting next week by batches. And of course, the Freedom of Information, FOI bill.
Finally.
Pwedeng ipasok doon yung open the BICAM. Di ba may campaign and I perfectly agree.
Yeah, I was about to ask, ma'am, what are your thoughts about the suggestion to open the bicameral conference, particularly on the budget?
I'm all for it. In fact, isa yan sa mga sinasabi ko in certain assemblies. Nasabi ko, iniisip ko to file a bill defining exactly and regulating the very functions and powers of the bicameral committee and make it transparent. Kasi,
as transparent as other hearings.
Yes, as other hearings. Kaya natuwa ako dun sa, di ba, I think ang talagang nag-umpisa niyan is Professor Shelo Magno, and there's a campaign really, and many are supporting it, the open BICAM. So I wouldn't know if ang naiisip ko to file a separate one strictly on the BICAM or incorporate it in the FOI. Kasi pwede rin ilagay din
Article
yan.
3, Section 7.
Correct. Kasi Freedom of Information din yan eh. So baka isang, just part of it, the FOI. So yun ang mga next.
And for our viewers, kasi napaka-importante nitong bicameral. Kasi in the budget season, ito yung binabantayan natin, Congresswoman, di ba? Kasi dito nangyari mga insertions na hindi na pag-usapan sa open hearings, sa Senate, sa House. And then, maggulat na lang tayo when the GAA was approved. Meron ng mga surprise insertions.
And exactly, kaya gusto ko sanang i-define at i-regulate ano exactly ang scope ng powers ng BICAM. Kasi ang alam ko dyan, is to just reconcile
the existing versions,
mga conflicting versions, and clarify mga vague provisions. Pero yung hindi yung, they're free to do anything.
Completely different versions.
Different. Yung mga mga lilipat-lipat nila. Di ba, na mga items sa iba't iba, and then yung dinadagdagan nila lagi yung unprogrammed appropriations, mga unprogrammed funds. So, kailangan i-regulate. And the only way to do it is by a law or internal guidelines for the bicameral. Pero yung making it transparent, that can be done right away. It's a matter of policy. Kahit nga wala pa yung batas, sasabihin lang ng
Pwedeng discretion.
both leadership, Senate and the House, sasabihin nila yun. And that should be followed already. Yung maging transparent yung proceedings nila.
Another, ma'am, on accountability, aside from the unprogrammed funds and also the surprise insertions in the bicameral version of our annual budget, isa rin sa mga problema, ma'am, yung confidential and intelligence funds.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this? Especially that you will be joining certain committees, and if you are a member of that committee, you will be part of the interpellators, di ba? Of the members of the representatives who will question the appropriations for certain agencies. So, ano yung stance mo on confi and intelligence funds?
Okay, to limit the confidential funds and intelligence funds to the proper agencies lang.
Anong mga...
For example, the security forces, syempre, Intel, both Intel and confidential. Sa security forces, AFP, and then PNP, and also
NSC,
NBI, kasi these are law enforcement. Kailangan naman talaga mga Intel and confidential funds. And then sa DOJ, pwede rin yung sa Witness Protection Program. Kasi may mga confidential activities din, programs, ang Witness Protection Program, may mga safe houses, the benefits of the of the witnesses covered by the program, ay kailang dun yun sa, and then even iyakat sa anti-trafficking. To a certain extent, may mga activities yan, may mga operations.
Under the DOJ.
Under the DOJ. Yung mga ganon. But offices like the Office of the Vice President,
Education,
DepEd, and most of the departments, executive departments, they don't need confidential funds, let alone intelligence funds. Depende kasi sa pinaka-ano nila, core mandate nila. May ilan-ilan na ganon. As sinabi ko nga, DOJ.
And sometimes DILG.
Of course, yes, DILG rin. Pero karamihan ng executive agencies ay lalo na mga government-owned and controlled corporations, they're not supposed to be entitled to confidential funds. Kaya lang the past years, at may pagkukulang din dyan yung executive kasi sila ang nag-ano ng NEP. And sometimes sa NEP pa lang, nandyan na. Meron na kaagad ng mga confidential funds, intelligence funds. So kailangan, because of our experience with the OVP and the DepEd, nagiging very hot issue yan as part of the impeachment issues, kailangan talaga maging maingat na ang Kongreso, both the Senate and the House, na dapat talagang very sparing and discerning sa pagpili kung anong mga ahensya, opisina ang pwedeng bigyan.
So for you, ma'am, dapat ito ay ilimit sa mga security or mga agencies na may malinaw na dapat spending but not on civilian agencies?
Yes. Yung civilian agencies, selected lang yan. Depende nga sa programs nila.
But majority should be security.
Majority should not be given confidential and intelligence funds.
Ma'am, last on the political comeback. Now, let's talk about your return to the Congress. This is a return because you've already served, diba, as a senator, but as you said, hindi niyo siya masyado na-enjoy and fulfill because you had to serve the remainder of your term while detained, diba, in the PNP Custodial Center. So, did you ever expect you'll have a political comeback? Kasi when we talked last year, that's exactly a year ago, when Tinlupa City Trial Court handed your last and final acquittal on the 3 drug cases filed under Duterte, filed by you under the Duterte administration. So did you ever think of a political comeback? Kasi during that time, parang ang sinasabi mo ay gusto mo na mag-focus in yourself, in your family, diba, make amends.
In fact, that was really my plan nung I was released provisionally. Remember, na-release mo na ako on bail in November 2023. When I was released then, ang plano ko lang to go back to my practice, most probably election law practice, and teaching, resume my teaching. In fact, last semester, nung malaya na ako, I also taught in the Cañada Jocno School of Law of De La Salle sa BGC. Nag-co-teach kami ni Dean Chell, ni Kong Chell.
Ano tinuro mo nun?
Human rights.
Human rights law.
Oh, one subject, one class. Kami nag-co-teach ni Dean Chell. That was last sem. Kasi akala ko tuloy-tuloy na ganun. And of course, more time with the family. But of course, I still thought of pursuing my advocacy, lalo na human rights and justice. So wala akong ganong plano. Kaya lang kinausap ako ni the late Congressman Edsel Lagman as LP President. First, he was encouraging me to run again for the Senate. Pero sabi ko, sir, no. I'm not at all prepared. I don't have resources. And besides, I am not at all prepared. And then he told me, whether or not you're running for any office this 2025 elections, my advice to you is go around the country and tell your story directly to the people. Ganun ang ginawa ko. Every invitation I get, especially from schools, I share my story, my life in detention, and then yung maski nga yung hostage taking, sinishare ko rin yun, yung experience na yun. So yun lang ang ginagawa ko. But then, nagkaroon nga ng development sa LP nung na-accredit yung ML. The Comalacan Bank issued the resolution granting the accreditation of ML as party list July of last year. So nung lumabas yun, kinausap na naman
Nagbagong
ako.
plans.
Kinausap ko, since wala ka namang plano to run for the Senate, why don't you be the lead nominee of ML? Since it's a new party list, maganda siguro if you also be the nominee there. Kasi ang dapat nominee number 1 noon was si Ted Bagilat, number 2 nominee si Erin Tanyada. But they talked to me, we are willing to slide down to number 2 and to number 3, and we will make you
the
as the
number
lead
1 nominee.
And then, so nung mag-oo na ako, I also said, okay, I'm willing to accept that, but on one condition. It's si Kongkit Belmonte yung aming campaign manager. So napilitan din si Kongkit na natanggapin yung pagka-campaign manager na. So
Experience naman dyan si Kong.
Experience naman siya. And I was thinking also, na since it's sectoral, and you'll be attending to the concerns of the marginalized sector, because that's the whole essence of the party list, although it's been abused already.
For some.
For some, diba? That's just another long discussion.
Yeah.
Sabi ko, maganda siguro, para bang, it will be fulfilling on your part if you're able to attend to the needs of this sector. Kasi ang dami nilang problema. Yung mga sectors na mga kinakausap namin lagi, they have so many concerns na talagang they need a voice, they need champions. And that's exactly why party list has been put there in our system, in our constitutional system, para makatulong sa kanila. Sectoral issues, makakatulong. So parang a feeling good assignment. I call it always as good for the soul, just like nung CHR ako noon, good for the soul. You fight for human rights causes. So gano'n na naman ang feeling ko.
Kaya yun yung nakapagpapayag sa'yo, ma'am. It's the thought of, being, kasi iba yung sa Senate, kasi national.
National, correct.
National seat, diba?
Yes.
National legislations. But this time, you'll be focusing on
sectoral and at the same time, also national issues. Kasi nga, lalo na pag nandiyan na naman mga high-profile investigations, I should be active there. And mga justice issues, human rights issues. Kasi mga justice and human rights issues na yan, if you come to think of it, it affects all sectors naman eh. Hindi lang masyadong na-appreciate yan. Kasi when you think about marginalized sectors, these are the gut issues. Kung ano talaga yung makakatulong sa pag-angat ng kanilang quality of living. Diba? Pero yung mga ganyang mga principles of truth, justice, accountability, human rights, it should affect all. And isa nga sa challenge yan sa amin sa ML, how to instill that kind of consciousness about the importance also on the day-to-day life of the members of the marginalized sectors ng human rights saka justice.
What's really interesting in these elections, ma'am, yung sa surveys, diba? Parang during the early surveys kasi before the actual elections, parang medyo naglalag lang ng konti itong ML. Even the Akbayan, parang it's not performing on pre-election polls. So nagkaroon ba kayo ng parang nagkaroon na kayong thought na parang what if hindi manalo? Meron na ba kayong backup plan sana noon? But eventually, of course, nanalo naman yung Akbayan with 3 seats, ML with 1 seat. So anong papasok sa isip niyo before the election?
Okay, I tried not to think of it. I tried not to think about electoral loss or electoral defeat. Okay, so totoo yun, yung mga pre-election surveys, kulelat actually yung ML. There was even a survey, wala dun yung pangalan ng ML because I think siguro 0% yung nakuha namin, hindi na lang linagay doon. But even the last, yung pinaka-last na pre-election survey, nandun kami, parang
this is first week
bottom 30, yung gano'n. So in fact, some of the members of the staff, campaign staff, medyo na demoralized na. But I told them, you know what? I feel, my gut feel, my sense is that we will make it. Kasi nga nakikita ko dun sa mga pinupuntahan ko, maganda naman lagi yung mga reception. O, iba-ibang audience yun, iba-ibang audience, all levels. So kaya lang, so personally, I felt now we will make it. We would make it. At sinabi ko yun dun sa mga kasama ko. Pero hindi lang ako sigurado if we'd be able to really achieve more than, or to gain more than 1 seat. Of course, our target was to get more than 1 seat. Mas maganda yun. Para kaming tatlo, mga lead nominees ay ano. Pero yun na nga, it turns out na hindi na kaya.
Pero muntik na sana. The numbers are leading towards another seat sana.
Yes, konti na lang. So medyo nakulangan pa. So basta I had that feeling na we would make it. Like ganun yung pre-election surveys.
And you were right. Meron bang ano ma'am, something that you thought na nagpanalo sa inyo? Kasi sa Akbayan, I think it's the face-to-face. Yun yung sinasabi nilang kanilang secret ingredient talaga with this election na nagpanalo sa kanila. Sa ML, is that the same case?
Ganun din. Kasi we did not have TV ads for lack of resources, very meager resources. Napakakonti lang nung aming mga radio ads. And then, of course, the SOCMED. Importante rin yung SOCMED. But, in fact, I would be... Kasi yung some of the members of the campaign team would say na pinaka-crucial, pinaka-importante yung SOCMED. Sabi nila, nowadays. At sabi ko, alam mo, I do not exactly agree with that. Yes, importante yung SOCMED, but we cannot just rely on the SOCMED. I do believe na given the Filipino psychology, the psyche of the Filipino, mas na-appreciate nila. Nakikita ka in person, nakakamayan ka. Yung iba yung mayakap pa, lalo na yung mga elders, mga
na nakakilala sa inyo from your CHR, DOJ.
They would appreciate it more. And then ikukwento nila yan sa pamilya nila, sa neighbors nila. Oy, kita namin si ganito, si ganyan. Mga ganun, you know, okay pala siya, mabait pala siya, mga ganyan. So I still insisted on it. Kaya nga, ganun, marami kami mga napuntahan ng mga lugar. But ang ginawa namin, as much as possible, the 3 of us, the lead nominees,
divide and conquer.
Para more areas ang makover. Although there are certain events, engagements na kailangan namin present kaming tatlo. But really, it's that, talking to people directly, and then the dialogues with some of the sectors that we represent.
And this elections was the winning guest of Liberal Party. You have 2 seats almost, di ba? Namin nanalo, Akbayan, ML. Pero ma'am, nahirapan ba kayo? May challenges pa? Kasi talagang the Duterte demonization was still there, di ba?
It's there.
So, meron bang challenges na gano'n na parang
actually,
you think it will affect? Kasi it affected your 2022 re-election, obviously. No, now, this 2025.
Actually, nung umiikot ako, I was actually psychologically prepared to an eventuality na, halimbawa, i-heckle ako. It never happened. Wala akong naging experience na may nag-heckle sa akin sa public. And on the contrary, may ilan, siguro at least 3 situations, different areas, na may lumapit sa akin, these are women, na, ma'am, pasensya po, nag-ask for apology.
And you don't know them?
I don't know them. Ma'am, pasensya po, noon po basher niyo ako. Noon po DDS po ako. Naniwala po ako dun sa mga sinasabi tungkol sa inyo.
Yung mga malicious.
Yung mga malicious, hindi na po. So, they apologize. Meron pa umiiyak. Nakalimutan ko na what place is that. So, ganon. So, pero I'm always aware kasi sa SOCMED, andyan pa rin talaga grabe yung mga rehash
Kasi may
issues.
mga trolls din.
Na nandun yung mga trolls. Pero ako naman, ganun na yung naging attitude ko ever since nung nakulong ako. I don't, I prefer not to dignify any of those. So, nasanay na akong ganon. Although, glaring sa akin yung change in the sense na kumonti na yung mga bashers ko unlike before. Kumonti na. Meron pa rin hanggang ngayon, pero not as before.
Ma'am, for the last part of our discussion, let's talk about your new role naman, aside from being, a newbie, neophyte, quote-unquote, lawmaker in the lower house. You'll be also assuming your role as a member of the prosecution in the impeachment trial of the Vice President. So, pwede bang ipakwento sa amin, ma'am? Kung yung mga pwedeng dito sa pwedeng i-share sa amin, the behind the scenes, nung in-offer sa inyo to, or nung in-inform kayo that the House is interested in selecting you as one of the prosecutors?
Well, I just got a call one fine day from the Speaker himself. Although I remember on that day, in the morning, may mga nagte-text sa akin ilang members of the House media. And then they were saying, ma'am, kumakalat ho dito yung balita na you and Dean Chell will be part of the prosecution. Basta, hindi ko nga sila mga sinagot Hindi ko mga sinagot yung mga any comment. And then in the afternoon, around 3 o'clock, I got that call from the Speaker himself. First, he was congratulating me, and second, he told me that kami ni Chell ay isasama nila sa prosecution. And then my initial response was, I'll give it a serious thought or consideration. And then he said something like, we need your answer right away. I think baka nga, I had the feeling na naka-speakerphone yun na nandun
parang may meeting sila.
Parang may meeting yung prosecution panel. Kasi may mga naririnig-rinig ako mga ingay sa likod, sa background. So, and then but we need your answer immediately. And then I said, give me a few minutes, Mr. Speaker. So nagtawag ako ng mga allies ko. And then, ganun, every one of them said, go for it. So I called the Speaker. I'm saying yes po. And then he told me, yes, Dean Chell also said yes. So natuwa siya. So yun. But then, that was the invitation, and we said yes. But there has been no official communication yet or official notice from the Speaker or anyone speaking on his behalf, or even from the prosecution panel, na kasama na kami talaga. Kasi kailangan kasi ng formal confirmation election sa body, sa plenary, para kami isama. Kasi supposed to be an 11-member panel, but 2, I think, were not re-elected. So kami nga ang ipapalit, kami ni Dean Chell. So of course I'm excited to be part of the prosecution panel. I know that it's going to be talagang seryosong trabaho yan, makakadagdag sa mga trabaho sa legislative work. But it's something that I really, para sa akin, this is just again a continuation mga ko na I'm always for the truth, justice, and accountability. So since this is about accountability, and since sa tingin nga ng House leadership is makakatulong kami ni Congressman Chell, then why not? Kung anong pwedeng ma-contribute namin.
Ma'am, kung tutuloy man itong impeachment trial, observers, political scientists call this as a public spectacle lagi ang impeachment. And in this impeachment trial, it's not ordinary because you'll be prosecuting, if ever, the daughter of the former president who, in your words, jailed you.
My chief
personal,
my chief
persecutor. So, ready ba kayo, ma'am, if ever may, hindi na maging successful yung impeachment, or the public opinion swayed in favor of the Vice President, and then some people turned against you again one more time? Are you prepared for that scenario?
I think I am prepared. Because ganun na nga ang nangyari sa akin, ganun ang ginawa sa akin. I went through that ordeal, an extraordinary ordeal. So I have this thinking, and then I think this is my advantage over others, na, yung ano pa ba ang pwede nilang gawin sa akin? And I cannot Well, syempre, hindi naman natin maiiwasan. Some people will be saying, baka ginagawa lang yan ni Congressman De Lima para lang makagante dun sa anak, di ba? Dahil nga yung tatay, ganun ang ginawa. But let them think that way. Let them speculate whatever it is that they want to speculate on. Pero ako, ang importante, yung aking pinaka-motive dito is makatulong na para palabasin ang katotohanan at para mapanagot yung VP doon sa kanyang mga gawain.
Meron na po bang naka-specific na parang informal, although nabanggit nyo kanina wala pa pong formal communication and election ninyo ni Dinchel, pero meron bang na-communicate na in advance na saang article ka?
No, not yet. Pero naka-receive na ako ng records. I'm not just sure if this is the complete records already, pero makapal talaga. And then I think also si Congressman Chel, pinadalhan na rin siya ng records. So that's why I have started already reviewing it, studying it. Pero yung any communication about ano talaga specific role namin, kung meron ba kaming articles to handle.
Specific.
Kasi remember, aside also from the public prosecutors, there will be private prosecutors. And there are, in fact, private prosecutors. Law offices rin na mga tumutulong sa public prosecutors. So these are our seven articles. So di ko alam kung ano yung mga division of labor dyan. Wala pa, hindi ko pa alam. Maybe meron na sila, pero hindi pa namin alam. Yes.
Speaking of articles of impeachment, ma'am, yung public kasi akala nila the impeachment trial of the Vice President was only rooted on her alleged misuse of confidential funds. Pero kung titignan natin yung 7 articles of impeachment, among them was the alleged involvement of the Vice President in the DDS, the Davao Death Squad, the alleged killings in Davao City. And you, as the Commission on Human Rights Chairperson, talagang well-versed kayo dito kasi pinaimbestigahan nyo yan. You are among the first government officials to have investigated the killings in Davao City. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why one of the witnesses said na in order pa kayong ipapatay. So, paano po makakatulong if ever yung experience nyo as CHR chairperson and your ICC communication, if ever na ma-assign kayo, or hindi man, doon sa article of impeachment, specifically on the drug war killings and Davao killings?
My exposure to that issue, my exposure to that investigation will definitely be a big help. Kasi yun yun yung parang, doon kasi nag-umpisa. Di ba yung talaga ng mga Duterte, especially the father, and then based nga dun sa revelation ni Arturo Lascania, self-confessed DDS hitman, na pati pala siya during her term then as mayor, na may mga may mga orders din siya about that. But it all started nga with the DDS killing. So the pattern is there. The policy the policy to exterminate yung mga kalaban, yung mga suspected mga drug personalities or drug offenders ay doon nag-umpisa. And then syempre si Arturo Lascanias, kasi Arturo Lascanias happens to be one of the witnesses now sa ICC. He witnesses along with Edgar Matubato. So, nabasa ko na yung affidavit nila, including the supplemental ni Arturo Lascanias. And more or less, I have, you can say, a stock knowledge on how the workings of the GDS, yung organizational structure, and then yung talagang modus ng DDS. So that background of mine can be of big help. Pero I'm not sure kung yun ang i-assign talaga sa akin, yung article na yun. But as you said, hindi lang ito tungkol sa confidential funds, tungkol din ito sa Article 1 mismo, yung the assassination plot, diba? Yung kasama doon. And then yung kanya mga statements, mga actions na which evinces yung destabilization. Yung mga,
kasama rin, ma'am, yung sa SALN.
Sa SALN, yes. Failure to accurately disclose yung kanyang assets, and then lalo na kung talaga maipalabas yung kanyang mga bank accounts.
So doon sa affidavit kasi ni Las Cañas, ma'am, medyo scant yung details kasi kay VP Sara. Kaya nga, di ba parang when people talk about Vice President's, possible arrest of ICC, that's not, I don't think that's really possible because of the scant details. But in your expertise, in your experience with the CHR, meron po ba kayong mga additional na evidence or parang mga groundwork na makakatulong?
Kasi kami sa CHR, wala pa doon si VP Sara. Hindi pa siya sa local government. Kasi si Digong lang talaga at yung talaga ang subject namin doon, yung mga yung mga summary killings during the term of Rodrigo Duterte, Mayor Rodrigo Duterte. So yung sa CHR, wala pa about Sara. It's only
on the general killings.
On the general killings and yung kay Las Cañas.
Ma'am, on the impeachment, the problem now is there's been, a dilly-dallying with the Senate. The Senate, effectively, as Senator Risa Ontiveros put it, parang effectively it killed the impeachment trial or at least derailed it by remanding the articles of impeachment back to the House, even though the certification, according to experts, was not really needed at this point because the House will not endorse it to the upper chamber if it's not certified. And of course, the second request of the Senate, that the trial should be pursued in the 20th Congress, which we are now in right now. So what does it say about the delays in the impeachment trial? I understand that the Senate President tries to make it appear that wala namang delay, but unfortunately for a lot of lawmakers like Senator Risa, actually may delay nung niremand natin.
Yes.
So what do you think of that?
Yes. Yung mga ginagawa ngayon ng Senate, really, these are all not sanctioned by the Constitution. That's why I call them ultra vires acts.
Or beyond legal.
Beyond, sa Constitution. Yung parang nila, binabastos nila yung Constitution. Yung nga lang yung hindi tamang pag-interpret ng the word forthwith. Na di ba iba yung mga sinasabi ni SP, ni Senate President Chis Escudero about the forthwith when it's very clear to us. Any dictionary that you would consult would say that forthwith means immediately and not 4 months, 3 months, or 4 months later. Doon pa lang mali na yun na hindi ka agad inaksyonan on February 5. Now the perfect excuse then was because of the electoral break. But again, kasi yung premise nila, ang una nilang inaano is dapat daw sumusunod sa legislative calendar ng Senate. Na yung unang nila, hindi na daw pwedeng mag-crossover sa 20th Congress. So ito na naman, yung pag-remand na naman yan, yung pag-return, another dilatory act. Another act that really, to put to question yung fealty ng Senate sa Constitution. Kasi malinaw sa Constitution, kaya nga, inano na dyan linagay na yung instructions niya both sa House tsaka sa Senate. Yung House, initiate, exclusive
and
power
prosecute.
To initiate and then prosecute. At sa initiate, nagawa na. Yung prosecute, ready na rin gawin. Kasi nga meron ng prosecution panel. And then sa Senate, 3 lang yung malinaw dyan. 3 is convene as an impeachment court, then hold the impeachment trial by looking at the evidence, the presentation of evidence, and come up with a verdict. Yun lang ang dapat trabaho ng Senado. Yes, there would be certain questions raised, mga procedural issues,
motions,
admissibility of evidence, and that's why motions would be put forth or will be filed, but not a motion to dismiss. Kasi kung you allow motion to dismiss, then bina-violate mo rin yung pinaka-directive ng Constitution na kailangan ngang i-try yung impeachment, yung impeach official.
Going on that question, ma'am, kasi merong recent, as after the remand, may another issue na na-raise. Ito nga yung sinasabi ni SP na pwede daw, ma-dismiss by majority of vote. Hindi rin ba possible? Aside from the motion to dismiss?
No, they should not entertain that. If they do entertain, they just note it. But wala na dapat yun kasi, so, articles of impeachment, answer na, although ad cautelam. And then nag-reply na. So issues had been joined. yung pagdating doon sa issue ng dismissibility, hindi na dapat nila yan in-entertain. Tapos doon sa mga defenses, those are matters of evidence na. Sa trial na dapat yon. So wala sila dapat gawin ngayon na that can really open any chance to move for dismissal, whether by the defense or by a senator himself, lalo na by a senator himself. Yes, may provision dun sa rules of impeachment about motions, mga ganyan, pleadings, etc. But the motions have something to do with the procedure and the admissibility of evidence. Mga technical
but not on the
issues,
verdict.
but not on yung dismissal before trial.
But during the trial, ma'am, can they do that? I mean, procedural question now.
No.
As in the Constitution.
Kasi ang utos at saka yung nakalagay yan sa rules, yung ipipresent talaga yung evidence ng mga lahat na articles. Unless may i-withdraw article ang prosecution. Diba? Kasi alimbawa, nakapag-present na sila on 3 articles at makita ng ma-sense ng prosecution team na okay na yon. The evidence is strong enough to convict. So let us not waste time anymore. I-withdraw na lang natin yung the other articles. So magboboto dun sa each article, separate pati ang voting. So kahit isa lang
ang conviction,
that's it. Tapos na ang trabaho. Tapos na ang trabaho ng Senado. Magiging functus officio na. Kapag ang ano lang is that kung halimbawa, pinurso lahat yung 7 articles, and then wala man lang nakapag-convict, then acquittal na yon. There is not even dismissal, but acquittal. So walang choice of a dismissal, whether it's before, during, and after trial.
So it's either convict or acquit. That's the only option for the Senate.
That's the only option after the trial.
Kasi the trial must need to ensue and must need to,
kailangan
continue.
Yes. So that's the mali talaga yung ginagawa ng Senado na nagkaroon muna sila ng mga, actually I call them invented barriers, invented technicalities. Yung mga return na yan, remand na yan. Because that's not sanctioned by the Constitution and by the rules. Kung babasahin mo talaga yung rules, sunod-sunod na yan yung para sa pag-present ng evidence at saka yung pag-render ng judgment.
Ma'am, last question on the impeachment. Bakit mahalaga po, paulit natin itong tinatanong sa lahat ng mga constitutionalists, dito sa mga prosecutors natin sa House, but why do we need to continue with the impeachment trial of the Vice President? We want the public to understand that proceeding with the impeachment trial does not equate to conviction or guilt, but it's an avenue for the prosecution and the Vice President to present evidence. So why do we need to continue with the impeachment?
Okay, impeachment is a mechanism of accountability. At limited lang yung mga opisyal na pwedeng ma-impeach at pwedeng litisin. Yung mga high officials, including the Vice President. So, importante yung impeachment na yan para mapalabas yung katotohanan. Importante yung impeachment na yan kasi kung ma-prove ng prosecution yung mga impeachable offenses na yun, yung mga sinasabi doon sa articles of impeachment, then hindi talaga siya karapat-dapat to continue as the Vice President. She would be unfit. So, kailangan managot siya. But ang punishment dito is not criminal penalty. Hindi siya makukulong. Kung makonvict siya dito, hindi siya makukulong. Wala yan sa punishment. Separate yan. Pag makonvict, criminal yan. Ang penalty lang is removal and disqualification from holding office. So again, importante yung impeachment para malaman natin ang katotohanan. Pangalawa, para ma-uphold yung mga fundamental principles sa ating konstitusyon, truth, justice, and accountability. To uphold the supremacy of the Constitution and also to uphold the principle in any democratic and republican state that no one is supposed to be above the law. Ito nga mismo yung mekanismo na ito. Bihira ito, itong impeachment na to. Kaya kapag may umuusad na impeachment, lalo na pag na-impeachment at House level, ibig sabihin, seryoso yung mga usapin na kailangan malaman ng taong bayan. Ma-witness mismo ng taong bayan.
Ma'am, for our last few questions, balik lang tayo dun sa inyong new role as lawmaker. Medyo na-derail lang siya ng konti na medyo parang nagkaroon lang ng falter ng konti. Kasi itong Court of Appeals ay grinant yung appeal ng prosecution. So, in effect, niremand, hindi naman na-reverse, pero pinaremand, pinaulit lang yung decision. So, anong reaction mo doon, ma'am? Kasi basically what the Court of Appeals had ordered the Judge Alcantara, was to rewrite,
Exactly.
explain. But in the ruling again of the judge, which was released last week, the judge basically just, rewritten literally the ruling, but with added details. And then the judge also had a note there saying that, oh, by the way, these things were already discussed in the first ruling. So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, nung lumabas nga yung Court of Appeals decision na yun, we were of course surprised, yung sa legal team, we were surprised and dismayed. Kasi hindi na namin masyadong inisip yung case na yan. Because sabi namin, acquittal nga eh. And we have nga the rule, the prescription against double jeopardy. At kahit may mga exceptions din yung rule na yan,
Certiorari.
meron din exceptions, mistrial, sham. It's a sham trial, violation of due process ng prosecution, grave abuse of discretion in exceptional circumstances.
Yes.
Not every case of grave abuse of discretion, pwede mong i-ignore yung double jeopardy principle. Wala namang nag-a-apply dun sa mga exceptions na yan. So supposedly, the general rule about hindi dapat sinasubject to double jeopardy, hindi dapat linilitis uli o hindi dapat pinapahirapan uli yung akusadong na-acquit na. Pero nangyari nga. So nagulat kami noon. Akala namin it should be a resolution dismissing the case because nga of double jeopardy. Pero ganun nga. At mas lalo kaming nagulat. At we were perplexed. Kasi nga ganun ang ruling. Hindi naman sinasabi, wala namang categorical statement that my acquittal was erroneous.
Or was reversed.
Was reversed. It's just that kulang daw. The decision, the way it was written, did not fulfill certain requirements. Yung klaro daw dapat yung mga statement of facts, statement of the law. In other words, to simply put it, pinapare-write, hindi nagandahan dun sa desisyon. That was already surprising kasi wala kaming alam na ibang kaso ganun. Na pinabalik dahil hindi nagustuhan the way it was written.
Usually in remanding kasi, ma'am, di ba? It's the upper court, the higher court, ordering, for
new trial. New trial. Kaya i-remand kasi new trial.
Kasi evidence.
But not about that. It's about the form of the decision. But the substance, kaya nga nanindigan itong si Judge Alcantara. Yes, he complied out of respect and out of deference to the Court of Appeals because it's a higher court than the regional trial court. Pero nanindigan siya na para sa kanya tama yung dati niyang desisyon. Dinagdagan na lang niya para maging malinaw talaga. But he stood firm na really our guilt, my guilt and the guilt of my co-defendant, co-accused, was not proven beyond reasonable doubt because of the recantation of the key witness, which recantation he found as valid, legitimate, na pinanindigan talaga nung nag-recant no witness, si Rafael Rago. Hours of cross-examination, mga nakatatlong hearings for the cross-examination by the prosecution. At hindi siya natinag. Talagang pinanindigan niya yung kanyang recantation. So affirmed it. The court affirmed it and said na because nag-recant yung key witness and there is no other evidence that could link me to the illegal drug trading inside Bilibid prison.
Or in the conspiracy.
In the conspiracy. Because the charge is conspiracy to commit illegal drug trading. Inamend nila yung original charge. So walang So, yun lang, naguluhan lang kami, nagtaka lang kami doon sa how the Court of Appeals disposed of the case. Pero syempre, double acquittal. So double jeopardy. So siguro naman din na magkakaroon ng triple jeopardy. That's too much.
This is your fourth, not fourth. Actually, meron pang ibang mga minor cases that you were cleared with. Now, ma'am, for our last question, what's next for you? Are there any specific preparations that you're looking forward to, or what are you looking forward to in the coming months?
Okay, I just have to really work hard, and prove to the people na kahit nga I went through that ordeal, I'm still, I'm still the same, Laila de Lima, na siniseryoso yung trabaho. And of course, sa ML tsaka sa LP, ang ano naman namin internally, we of course want to strengthen, we aim to strengthen both LP and ML. Now, but as to work, I just wish to really just focus on my current, yung sa legislative work, and of course, kung matuloy yung impeachment as prosecutor.
Ma'am, thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you also. Thank you. Always a pleasure.